ladies and gentlemen. Our next speaker is Tania de Vries. She's the founder of digital Geekaship in South Africa, and I'm just going to read a bit about her. Clearly she's beautiful. She's also passionate about assisting others to succeed, very committed to building a better African society. Tania is also passionate about software mentoring and has more than 19 years of experience in tech. Oh, that's a long time. Her endless energy is channeled in making organizations a better place to live in, skilling up software developers while building software products to solve key problems. She mentors on some of the modules that are offered at Digital Geekaship offered. Ladies and gentlemen, Tania van Wyk.
Hi. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, I suppose, the tech behind education and mainly online. So I can share some of the experiences we've had at Digital Geekaship. What we basically do there is that this year we have launched our work integrated online platform. So we used to run only in classroom courses for the last 4 years. And this year has been our first trial using an online learning management system across Botswana, Mozambique, as well as Kenya and South Africa. So even though we're focusing a little bit more on tertiary education, we still do offer Schools Who Code program. So I know this is the private school track. So the approach I'm going to take today is basically to take the learning we have in our own environment on an open platform and then apply that to the private sector and just giving you some insights around that. So is there anyone here that is familiar with MOOC'S? Okay, so half of the audience. Okay, so I've sort of broken it down into two parts. So the trends that we're seeing in the industry is that either you host your own platform, so that means you brand it, you own the content, you run the tech, or you have a shared MOOC platform where someone else is basically owning the technology and you're just a content provider on that platform. If I'm getting too technical, my first job I was actually a software developer, so I tend to put stuff a little bit technical, but that's how we're basically going to go through the presentation. So what we have seen that MOOCs have done is that it's opened up competition for traditional educators. So all of a sudden there's individual entrepreneurs that's springing up that now have access to online MOOCs where they can generate content and actually generate some of their own income. And then also corporates. Corporates can start moving into the space and I'll talk a little bit about some of those. So some of the successfully established MOOC platforms currently is EduTech or edX. So corporates there, for instance, that's on that platform is Microsoft. So that if we just go back to this slide, basically there is some corporates that's tapping into the platforms. Udemy, is anyone familiar with edX? Udemy? Okay, Udemy, Coursera, and Get Smarter. So those are sort of some of the well-known platforms. There is others that's there as well. The benefit of these platforms is that they are actually well established and they already have a channel, a created channel. Yes, it's a competition here with some music and everything. So they already have an established channel, so it's easy for you to get traction from a financial model perspective, which I'll talk to in a little bit. So is anyone familiar with a South African MOOC platform that's well established in the private school space? Because I'm not. So There's some schools that started offering some of the Hatfield Christian School, for instance, have got an online platform at the moment. But there's definitely a gap in South Africa in terms of South African-based learning. You will see that the Cambridge link at the bottom, Cambridge have they've tapped into South African-based learning across all the grades. So that's available. I actually know a few high school kids that is traveling with their parents throughout the world currently and studying online and finishing their high school education using that platform. Okay, so if you are interested in establishing your own branded platform, so this means you install a piece of technology and you drive the content and you own the platform. These are some of the well-established talent management systems. So it's Moodle, Coursera's, Talent LMS, and then Chart Learning actually offers a blended learning approach, which is one of the few platforms we've evaluated that incorporates a blended learning approach that's really effective. Even the assessment framework is built around supporting and assessing learners from a blended learning approach. Which is what we more support, because blended learning taps into mentors and coaches as part of the learning process, even though the content is available online. So the big question is it really free? And the answer is definitely not. Basically, I sort of tried to summarize the revenue models that's currently out there on the platforms. So one of it's that it's completely free. So some of the corporates, what they would do is they base learning courses they will make available for free, and then basically use that as a marketing pool into some of their technologies as well as other education courses that they're offering. You pay for a course. So Udemy, for instance, I'm sure if there's any tech people you pay very low fees for courses, and then you get access to lots of videos and no mentor interaction. There's another model, for instance, on edX, where Harvard and some of the international universities, as well as corporations like Microsoft, would actually allow you to complete all the modules for free. But in order to get the certificate, you've got to pay. So you can basically progress through all of the courses, and then if you want a certificate from either the university or the corporation, you've got to pay for that. Also, to write a final exam that gets accredited across the course will also have a fee associated with it. Then there's, on edX, you could also pay for additional services. So if you want your content developed, if you want your content marketed, you could actually tap into these teams that could provide that service for you. And then you could also pay for a coach, a mentor, a tutor online. So all the material is for free, but you could get access to a mentor, coach, or tutor online, and you pay for the time that you interact with them. So that's sort of a combination, and sometimes there's a combination of these, but these are sort of the revenue models that is currently associated with the platforms. So there's some other costs. So the hidden cost is always the technology cost. So you're either going to pay for hosting, or you're going to pay for an internal technology person that's got to help you with navigating the platform and assist with any technical issues you've got. Most of the, like Udemy and edX, well, not edX so much, but they take a sales commission. So they will, the content provider or the course presenter will take 80% of the commission and 80% of the course fee, and 20% of that will go to the platform. It's also important to note to check IP constraints on these platforms. Often the IP is partially owned by the platform the moment the content is loaded on that. So just especially with Udemy as well. So just take that into account when you are considering any of the platforms. Training. So any of your traditional educators will all of a sudden have to learn a tool to produce the content and keep that going. So there will definitely be a technology training aspect associated with getting your content and your organization live on a platform. Onboarding, which getting going on it. If you don't have people internally that manage the whole content development as well as program management, you could also make use of those services through the teams associated with some of these platforms. So if you don't have an internal team, you could use some of the service providers. So on edX, for instance, they have a team that you could pay for the service of managing that program and the support to technical students. And then rerunning. So if you have done a course, looking at your statistics and seeing what tweaks you can make on some of the commercial open platform in terms of increasing your success. So there's also a fee associated with that, with Udemy, for instance, and edX, if you wanted to tap into that consulting. Okay, so what is some of the current challenges that we've seen with the MOOC platforms? A lack of commitment to complete courses. It's almost, how can I say it? So if you are walking into a university and you are going to spend, physically you have made a decision to spend 50,000 Rand a year at that institute to pay for, there seems to be some form of commitment. What we often see with some of these MOOC platforms, the course prices are driven down, which results in you almost buying things just because you see there's a special running. And I'm also prone to that. I've got like Python and data analytics and I don't know whatever else courses. When there's a special, I just buy it because it's only 200 Rand. But I haven't even started any of them. So I think there's even in our own team, sometimes our technology teams would start on a new project with new technology and we buy them a Python course, and I tell you 9 out of 10 times they don't touch that course, they just wing it, learn it on their own on the side, Google, go to Stack Overflow, etc. But the point is the completion rate is really low. So I think that's one of the challenges of this platform, really replacing any traditional education institutes and systems that's in place. A lack of accelerated learning. So one of the things we found with the model where we combine the online learning platform with mentor-based assistance is that if you have access to an expert that you can ask questions around your problems, combined with the platform, it actually helps you to get through the content quicker. So it's fine that all the MOOC platforms have videos and explains all the tech videos, for instance, because we in the tech space is very explanatory and you can go through it and follow it, but trust me, the stuff don't always work the way the content provider indicates that. So now you're stuck. So then the time goes into you figuring it out yourself instead of having access to someone that already knows the answer to the solution or someone that's got the experience that you can tap into. Certification in South Africa still seems to be a problem. So a lot of the corporates are still asking, where's your degree, where's your diploma, where's your certificate? So I not so much overseas, but I know in one of the talks earlier today they said that they don't look at papers. I personally have not experienced any of the corporates where we place our students in which doesn't ask for papers. So they do open some of those opportunities to people that don't have a formal certificate, but I think in South Africa specifically the mindset is still very focused on certifications. Often on some of these courses the quality is not guaranteed, so we don't know the quality of the content that we're buying. It might also take long to complete a course because of the time management issue, you're doing it on your own. And then there's no support in terms of a community. I think what helps to succeed in university, etc., if we look at that specifically, is that you have access to other people, peers that you meet in a physical space. So I still think that's a challenge for any of the MOOC platforms to succeed. Well, it's already succeeding, but what I'm trying to say is for that to replace traditional education completely. And then one of the challenges is any new kids on the block. I don't know if anyone, is anyone here tertiary or a primary educator, okay? Is anyone trying to register to become one? Okay, so we have been on a waiting list for 2 years. So one of the issues is any new kids on the block currently that wants to tap into platforms and get going is actually, it's not moving forward. So there's definitely a challenge there to tap into. So what I'm trying to say is there's traditional educators that have the opportunity to tap into the fact that they've got a license. All that you've got to do is embrace the technology that supports that. Because you've got the channel, you've got you've got your student base, you've got your marketing engine. This could actually just leverage your organization by making available technology as an alternative and not having to come into the campus. I don't know if everyone was at that talk earlier, but the stats that was shown is that the demand for current students enrolling in any of the education institutes is 42% demand of actually having an online capability so that they don't have to be at the campus all the time. Okay, so where are we going? I don't think these platforms are going to go away at all. Traditional education money will definitely move to online training. So if you don't have an online platform as a traditional educator, either a school or a tertiary educator, you will definitely fall behind because there's other people that are technology and content focused that will bridge that gap. And the problem with those companies is like all startups, I'm sure you've heard of disruption in a few spaces. Those guys move quick, they've got the skills, they're lean and mean, they can get into things very quickly. It also creates an opportunity for entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of individuals that all of a sudden can build companies around content-specific things that we see all over the internet. Also, these educators, like in our case, I would say one of the things that we focus on is that because we practice what we preach, we tech educators, but we work with the stuff that we do. So the content that we produce and the way that we teach people is bringing them closer to what the corporate world basically expects. So that's some of the content that we see that's running on the platforms currently, that it tends to be more aligned with the workplace because there's not slow turnaround cycles for approval of content from the Department of Education, etc. You can just move. And then definitely the key here is to create an online community that creates that learning support. So that was one of the gaps or the challenges that I highlighted. Okay, so for the educator, I'm wrapping up 1 minute. It's important you'll have to invest in a content creation team that actually, I don't think traditional teachers and even tertiary, primary school, high school, they're not content creators. So this changes the game a little bit. So you'll have to invest in people that create really professional and good content. Mentors, providing or supporting your MOOC platform with mentors. So bringing that human aspect and the expertise into the platform will increase the success of completion on the courses. The learner also changes because they need to be a little bit technical. So they need to be familiar with using a platform and how to navigate around. So we've often seen that as a problem with some of the learners. And then visibility of learning successes. There's not a lot of data on some of the MOOCs available because of the dropout rates of people. So I think one of the challenges for the educators is to make the success of the learning basically visible. So how successful are we actually on these platforms? Because that data is not necessarily shared. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm done. Any questions? Yes. Sorry.
The question is about marketing and what marketing facilities these MOOCs actually offer for your courses. I know Udemy at one stage, I don't know what it's like now, but at one stage they took 50% of the revenue. Their argument being that they bring the students to you.
Yes.
I don't know to what degree that's actually true of them, but
currently it's at 80%. So the content provider gets 80%. So they take 20% for that marketing. Yes.
At Udemy.
Yes.
Okay. But what about the others? Do they really bring this to the table? Do they give you that exposure and the revenue that they promise?
I do think so, because they've created the channel already. So the thing is, we had our own learning platform initially, and we actually considering moving on to those platforms because of the marketing cost involved. So I do think there's a huge upside in that. And the thing is, they've already got an international market. They're not just focusing local. So all of a sudden your content can be sold in the States and not just in South Africa.
Okay, I have a question and a comment. So first of all, thank you very much, Tania, for the talk. I'm sitting here wondering whether it's not necessary to get a bit more granular between MOOC platforms and OPMs, which is online program managers such as Get Smarter. I think they offer synchronous short courses. They don't offer a single massive open online course in the sense of sort of, you can come on and do it by yourself. But I think what I'm trying to say is that this is sort of, getting more and more granular space, with OPMs on the one side, MOOC aggregators, and where I think there's a big debate currently, sort of blossoming in the States. Just to make it clear, I'm not against OPMs or these platforms. I think it's an exciting space and there's space for everyone. I don't think we have enough education platforms and initiatives, but I also think there's a big question of whether, when you're a school or a university, the question of outsourcing key strategic capabilities to these players, because I think it's a question of please take this cup and drink it, because everybody is afraid of change.
Yes.
And that's something I'm very much seeing. I don't know how many people here are from universities and schools, but to outsource those key strategic capabilities, I think it's something that's going to increasingly bite educational institutions in the behind going forward. I think it's, thinking about your strategy, I think it's very different for a smaller player or a school or a university. It's different strategies, but to have that multi-partner, multi-platform strategies, but to be clear how you develop your own strategic capabilities in tandem. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, so I think every sector, just my last comment, is becoming a tech company. So you have to know you're going to become a tech. We do consulting in the automotive industry. I'm not going to name the person, but it's obviously a global company. And they are buying tech companies. They're investing in buying tech companies all over the world. Software developers. So
I completely agree with you. I think the online